My name is Wayne Catalano. I've been in this racing business for about 50 years. Twydil X been great for me. I would recommend it because it works on my horses and it works on bad bleeders. And I've seen the results. I'm a firm believer in stuff that works.
Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look back at the Grade 1 Breeders Futurity at Keeneland. This race, an important prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and Daily Racing Form's Breeders' Cup Juvenile coverage is presented by Twydil. Let's break from the gate in the Breeders' Futurity Classic Causeway. Post 13, Mike. He showed good speed in this race. He was really the only part of the pace hanging around at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to say, going back and watching this race, Dan, that he was pretty badly compromised. Drawing the far outside, you see Jose Ortiz. He was on an absolute send here. He wanted to clear. He had to go fast to get there. And he's going to make a pretty strong pace all the way. At this point, you know, he does clear, but he had to go fast to get there again. Rattle and Roll, the winners in about mid-pack. Look at the horses between the winner and Classic Causeway right now. They're going to finish absolutely nowhere after chasing this early leader.
Let's talk a little bit about Rattle and Roll, who bobbled a little bit at the start, but is traveling very comfortably under Brian Hernandez Jr., just moved into 7th down on the inside. This horse gave a very strong sweep, we'll see on the turn, and finished it off nicely. Promising sort for Ken McPeak.
Yeah, very promising horse, who's basically run well in all of his races. And listen, he got a great trip in here with a really nice pace setup in front of him. But he also really ran. I mean, he traveled very strongly throughout this race. He's taken to the outside right now just to make sure he doesn't get stopped by these horses that are chasing. And he's just going to sweep right by this field. Classic Causeway, as well as he runs, has absolutely no answer for this horse off the quarter pole.
Yeah, Classic Causeway is familiarizing himself right now with Stellar Tap. The Grays eventually going to put Stellar Tap away, but this race is over. Rattle and Roll. Just shaking clear on the outside. He's going to switch leads, and it is all over. Double Thunder for Todd Pletcher came from far back. I think aided a little bit by this pace scenario, Mike. He continues to improve with every start. He's kind of an underrated horse, but he did get the right setup here. He didn't break very well from the inside post.
Yeah, probably. I guess you could say he's a little underrated. Yeah, didn't break great from the inside. He was basically ridden along through the entire race, and he just really tried to follow the winner around the track there, Dan. He really couldn't keep up with them around the turn there or all through the stretch, but he did stay on. He was along for second at the end. I sort of felt like he took advantage of a really nice setup here, but it was another step in the right direction for him.
Rattle and Roll, son of Connect, winner of the Cigar Mile, $55,000 weanling purchase, resold for $210,000 as a yearling, quality female family, Grade 1 stakes winner, another review among the major horses in that pedigree. Let's take a look at the order of finish for the Breeders' Futurity, and let's talk a little bit about Rattle and Roll. This horse ran so well sprinting in his career debut, just didn't have a good trip at all. He was in against Gunite, who of course eventually won the Hopeful at Saratoga, and we liked him so much coming out of that race. We thought he was a cinch at Saratoga in his second start, that one and only 9 furlong dirt race they run every year. Well, Rattle and Roll didn't finish that race. We were kind of like, huh, and scratching our heads. Supposedly he got like a clod kicked in his eye and he was pulled up.
Yeah, it seems like he had a legit excuse coming out of that race. And of course, you know, they took him back home to Churchill Downs out of that race. And I realized that his maiden win in his very next start, it didn't come back that fast. But he was very impressive again, winning that race after getting bumped at the start. There wasn't a lot of pace in that race. He really finished strongly to pull clear at the end. He did the same thing here when they bumped him up to a Grade 1. He just seems like a 2-year-old with a lot of talent, Dan.
Let's talk about where he rates with some of the other 2-year-olds right now. I think he's still on the outside looking in from a price standpoint in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That's good if you like him. You're going to get some value. That 81 buyer speed figure in the Breeders' Futurity is certainly pointing the right way.
Yeah, it was a step in the right direction for him. I guess you would have to say, you know, you have Jack Christopher on the East Coast for Chad Brown. You have Corniche on the West Coast for Baffert. They're both faster than this horse by quite a bit right now. I would have to say they're the 2 leaders of the division, but I would put Rattle and Roll right behind them. I think this horse still has a lot of upside. I just like the way he goes in his races, Dan. He travels very strongly and he really finishes.
Let's talk about some of the shorter priced horses that failed to perform to expectations. Don't Wait Up was 5-1 in this race. He was the second choice. He ended up last. He was chasing that fast pace. And I think the fact that he finished so far back, and Great Escape, a horse who was fairly close to the pace after 5 furlongs or so, finished far back, and Stellar Tap finished far back, it's really a good sign for Classic Causeway's third place effort.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to say he's a beaten favorite here in a grade one, but I think you just have to say that he actually ran a really, really nice race, and he's a horse who certainly deserves another chance. It just feels like, being drawn to the far outside just really, really cost him badly in this race. They had to use him too hard to make the lead. As already mentioned, the horses that were doing the chasing, they were absolutely nowhere in this race. Rattle and Roll, you saw where he came from with a really good trip. The second place finisher, the fourth place finisher, the fifth place finisher. All the horses that surrounded Classic Causeway in this race were way out of it early.
Well, does that make Classic Causeway a contender if they decide to go on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? We know he has speed. He now has the experience around 2 turns and a route of ground. He has the fast race, the debut race at Saratoga, or is it just a case of too much too soon, only a third lifetime start?
I mean, it could be that, but if they did decide to go on and run in the Breeders' Cup, and then he drew some kind of, cozy inside post, I think he'd be a horse that you would have to take pretty seriously, Dan. I think you could look at his 2 races right now, especially the 90 buyer he earned on debut, and just say, this is a really talented 2-year-old. He's got a nice pedigree behind him. His trainer knows what he's doing. This horse was badly compromised in this race.
Did you notice any trips from some of the other horses in here? American Sanctuary, the 4th place finisher, came from last. Yes, he did get the right pace setup. I thought there were several instances where he found a little bit of traffic.
He did, that was mostly because his rider decided that they were going to stay towards the inside routes there. He didn't follow the 1-2 finishers who both got out to the clear around the second turn. They stayed towards the inside. Dan, personally, I didn't ever see this horse get stopped. I thought all in all, the trip worked out pretty well for him. And he was along to pick up 4th without ever really factoring in the race. I don't know. I didn't see big excuses. I saw a big excuse for Classic Causeway. For the other horses, I didn't really see any, unless you're just going to say, a horse like Don't Wait Up, who's very lightly raced, did not want to be chasing a fast pace, and he deserves another chance. I wanted to see him do at least a little bit of running, though. I didn't see Don't Wait Up make any kind of a run in the race. I was very disappointed in his performance.
Is it time to start cutting Stellar Tap back in distance? They've stretched him out twice off the impressive debut win at Saratoga. The 2-turn efforts haven't panned out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to do that now and just see what happens. He was, pretty impressive winning his first start sprinting with a 78 buyer speed figure. So I guess you would just have to cut him back now and see what happens.
Let's take a look at the prices for the Grade 1 Breeders Futurity. Rattle and Roll pays $19.40 for Kenny McPeak, Brian Hernandez Jr., and he's a bit of an under-the-radar candidate for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Our Breeders' Cup Juvenile coverage is presented by Twydil.